Hey guys, thank you so much for joining me on WellnessKE. My name is Fatma. Here on WellnessKE, we like to offer women great information and solutions so that they can improve their reproductive health. I want to remind you that you can hit that like button because liking is going to ensure that YouTube gets to share this particular video and all of our content. That way, more women can be able to benefit from the information that we share. Also, while you're at it, don't forget to hit that subscribe button because once you're subscribed, you'll know every single time we post a new video. So let's get started. So if you've clicked on this video, then you'd like to learn how you can be able to get your period back. So you're probably worried about your monthly period because you haven't had it maybe for a month, 2, or a year. I mean, here on WellnessKE, we get to talk to so many women who are struggling with this particular issue. And today, I want to offer you with the right information so that you can know exactly what you need to do in order for you to get your period back. But in order for us to understand all this, we need to understand menstruation. And I'm sure you remember in school when you learnt about the ovaries releasing the egg and it traveling through the fallopian tube, and then when there's no fertilization, then shedding occurs and the shedding ends up being your monthly period. But today I want to take you much further into this particular topic so that you can understand what is needed in order for a woman to have menstruation. So other than the reproductive organs of a woman, i.e. the ovaries, the fallopian tube, the uterus, the cervix, and also the ovum or the eggs, what else is needed? What's needed is also your brain. Yep, you heard me. Actually, what happens is at the base of your brain, you actually have two glands known as the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland. And these are actually very, very crucial when it comes to menstruation. So what exactly do they do? Basically, in order for menstruation to occur, the hypothalamus is going to prompt the pituitary gland to produce a certain hormone. And this hormone is known as follicle stimulating hormone. And follicle stimulating hormone, or FSH, is important so that it can communicate a message and prompt the ovaries to produce mature and proper eggs. And this is very important for menstruation to occur because this particular egg is supposed to travel through the fallopian tube. And also, if fertilization occurs, then that means you have a pregnancy. But if it does not occur, then that means you're going to have menstruation. So that's why it's important for the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland to play this very, very crucial role when it comes to producing follicle stimulating hormone. So follicle stimulating hormone has been released and your ovaries have been able to produce mature eggs. So what happens next? Actually, what happens is the pituitary gland is also prompted to release luteinizing hormone. And luteinizing hormone is very important because it's actually going to prompt now the movement of this egg from the ovary all the way to the fallopian tube so that it can await the sperm for it to be fertilized. So luteinizing hormone, or LH, is released and a woman expects to be pregnant during this time because ovulation takes place, and this is the right time or the right window for her to have sexual intercourse so that she can be able to have her egg fertilized by the sperm. So once LH is released and this egg has moved to the fallopian tube and it's awaiting the sperm, what happens next is that your ovaries also play another very important role. They actually prompt the production of two sex hormones known as progesterone and estrogen. And if you've been watching our videos, you know how important these hormones are. And estrogen is a hormone that plays many functions, one of them being growth and development. So what does estrogen do? It goes ahead and prepares the uterus so that, if by any chance this egg is fertilized, it's actually going to end up being a pregnancy. So it creates a conducive environment by leading to the growth and development of the uterine lining. It actually thickens this lining and it's known as the endometrial lining. So the endometrial lining ends up being thicker so that just in case there's a pregnancy, you can actually have a conducive environment for the zygote so that it can develop into a fetus and then you can have a pregnancy. But what happens if a woman has not had sexual intercourse and the sperm has not fertilized this particular egg that was waiting at the fallopian tubes. What happens is that, the uterine lining basically is pointless because there's not going to be a pregnancy. So it needs to shed, and the shedding is through blood, and that's how you end up having menstruation. So basically, this is what menstruation entails, meaning a woman doesn't necessarily just need her reproductive organs. She also needs her brain and the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland so that they can perform these functions and release these hormones, which are going to actually play a role in the release of the egg and also in creating a conducive environment for a possible pregnancy. So now that you've understood menstruation, I also want to mention that a woman's menstrual cycle is healthy if it is between 21 days to 35 days. But a perfect, and I say perfect in quotes, a perfect cycle would be 28 days or 29 days or 27 days. Sometimes when you see you have a much shorter cycle or a much longer cycle, it could be because of an imbalance of hormones, which we're actually going to talk about much further. So now that we've understood what menstruation is, let's now get into understanding why there's a lack of menstruation in some women and what they can do about that. Okay, so this could be the reason why you're not getting your period. Actually, for me to explain everything, I need to give you the terminology. Basically, for a woman who does not get her period, they actually call this, they diagnose this as amenorrhea. And amenorrhea is basically when a woman who is in her reproductive years does not end up getting her period. Or it could be a young girl who has hit puberty, has all the puberty signs like breast development and everything else, but unfortunately is not getting her period. Now, for us to understand amenorrhea, we need to understand that it's classified into two. You have primary amenorrhea and secondary amenorrhea. As I mentioned, primary amenorrhea is basically when a girl young enough, like 14, 15, 16, 17 years of age, who has already hit puberty and has had the signs of puberty, but unfortunately is not getting her period. So this primary amenorrhea could be due to several factors. It could be due to chromosome abnormalities or chromosomal abnormalities. And this is one of the reasons why some young girls actually end up not having their period, even though they are at the right age and have already hit puberty. The next one could be due to brain dysfunction or some issues with the brain. As we mentioned, for a woman to actually have her period, the brain is involved. So it could be an issue with the hypothalamus or the pituitary gland. It could also be a tumor or an adenoma in the pituitary gland in whatever way. And for this particular reason, some doctors might actually conduct what is known as an MRI so that they can just get a scan and understand what might be going on. And when they find the cause or the issue, then they can be able to fix it. So the brain actually plays a role, and it could be one of the reasons. Another one could be lifestyle factors, meaning over exercising. Certain young girls actually dive into maybe fitness or a certain sport, and they're very passionate about it, and over exercising has actually been linked to issues related to primary amenorrhea, so they might not get their period. Another one is nutrition. Some girls actually go through bulimia or anorexia, which are, eating disorders, and these might actually disrupt the normal functioning of the body and hormones and could lead to them not actually having their period. It could also be physical factors. Maybe when they do carry out a physical exam or some scans, they find out that there are issues with maybe, let's say, the fallopian tubes, or issues with the ovaries, or they might be missing their uterus. Whatever the factor, this could be one of the reasons. And also obstruction. Sometimes some girls have obstructions when it comes to their hymen, so that actually brings obstruction of blood flow when menstruation is supposed to occur smoothly. And so these are some of the things that might be reasons why some girls actually end up not having their period while they've already hit puberty. But today we actually want to focus on secondary amenorrhea, which affects women who are in their reproductive age This means that you started having your period from the time you were a teenager, or you hit puberty. You've been having your period in your 20s, in your 30s, whatever, but then at some point you actually stopped having your period, and it's actually gone on maybe for several months. It could be 2, 3, 4 months or more, or even a year. And as I mentioned, there are some women here on the WellnessKE platform who have shared that they haven't had their period for about a year or a year and a half, and they're still trying to find out why this could be the reason. So for secondary amenorrhea, as you could have guessed, it actually affects women in their reproductive age, and also it's a condition that could be caused by many factors, and I want us to go through some of these factors. So the first one is pregnancy. It could be that a woman is pregnant because she is in her reproductive years, but then she's not getting her period. So the solution to this would be for you to actually get a pregnancy test, because obviously when you're pregnant, you're not going to be able to get your period. So that's number one. The second one could be perimenopause or menopause. Perimenopause is basically the preceding years to menopause, the years that lead to menopause. So some women, when they're almost getting into menopause, they actually don't get their period, and it could be for several months, and that could be one of the reasons that a woman in her reproductive years is actually not getting her period. Another one could actually be medication, or taking illicit drugs. Some women are actually, taking certain medications like antidepressants or antipsychotic medication, or even chemotherapy, women who are going through radiation. And so because of that, this actually disrupts their menstrual cycle, or taking hard illicit drugs. This could be one of the reasons. Another one could also be lifestyle factors like over exercising, like athletes, and also eating disorders, as we mentioned in primary amenorrhea. So maybe a woman that's actually going through some eating disorders like bulimia and anorexia, and this actually causes some disruptions when it comes to their menstrual cycle. So that's a very important factor to consider. Another one could actually be illnesses. Certain illnesses actually end up affecting your hormones and menstrual cycle. For example, diabetics. Some women who are diabetic actually do tend to see that they miss their period, and if you're one of those women, then it's important for you to understand your hormones, insulin levels, etc. That way you'll understand what you need to do in order to fix that particular issue. Another one could be physical abnormalities. For instance, issues with the ovaries, or issues with the uterus, or maybe some certain surgeries that you've had. For instance, some uterine surgeries, like women who have had a miscarriage. Usually after the miscarriage, they tend to go through a procedure known as D&C, and D&C is basically where they're going to scrape off some of that matter, or some of the fetus that was left there, and they're actually basically just going to be scraping it off. And unfortunately, this ends up disrupting a woman's menstrual cycle after they've had this procedure. So it could be something that's physical that's actually affected you, that's leading to that. So if you are someone that's gone through that particular procedure and you find that you're not getting your period, this could be one of the reasons. Another one could be hormonal contraceptives. So you might be taking the hormonal pill or using other contraceptive methods that are hormonal, and unfortunately they contain estrogen and progesterone, and they go and disrupt what you naturally have. And so because of that, you end up missing your period. Some women actually, when they start taking a contraceptive, they find that they don't get their period the first 3 months, or when they've just stopped taking a certain type of contraceptive, they find that they actually don't have their period. So this could be one of the factors. Another one of the reasons could be high levels of androgens. Androgens such as DHEA or testosterone, which happen to be male hormones. Yes, they're male hormones, but they do exist in women, not in large amounts as they do exist in men. But when these levels are quite high, they do give women certain male-like characteristics. and this could lead to a lack of your period. So that means it's important for you to get a hormone test to understand and know if you have high levels of either testosterone or androgens, male hormones. That way you'll know how to fix that particular issue. Another factor could be thyroid related issues or thyroid disorder. So maybe you have hyperthyroidism or hypothyroidism, an overactive or underactive thyroid. This could actually lead to an issue when it comes to you getting your period. So it's important for you to check your thyroid, which you could do that using a test. So when you go to the hospital, your doctor is actually going to carry out these tests to know if there is an issue there. Another one could be PCOS. So basically PCOS is polycystic ovarian syndrome, and this condition actually, as it's described, involves a woman actually having a cyst and missing her period and having high levels of androgens or male hormones, as we've talked about, and this particular hormone, testosterone. So women who have PCOS find out that they have certain signs and symptoms like a deep voice, hair on their chest or their chin. They also have hair loss in a male-like pattern. They also tend to have anovulatory cycles, meaning they don't ovulate and they don't produce the egg, and also eventually they don't get to have their period. So if you have PCOS, this could be one of the signs, meaning you actually do not get your period. So these are just some of the causes of secondary amenorrhea, and they are very important for you to understand. There are also other factors, but because we don't want to get to too much, I just wanted to compile the ones that are most common and could potentially lead to you having secondary amenorrhea. So what's the best action to take now that you've actually ticked all these and figured out what could be causing your secondary amenorrhea? Well, I would say the first thing you need to do is to actually go and see a doctor so that they can actually diagnose you and you know that you actually have secondary amenorrhea. That's very important. The moment you get to see your doctor, they're going to carry out several tests. For instance, they might carry out an MRI to actually check your brain. That way they'll find out if there's an issue with the pituitary gland or the hypothalamus. Sometimes there might be a tumor there. There are even some microadenomas, which are microtumors that are not even seen when they carry out these MRIs, but they have their own way of figuring out if you have an issue, because they'll check for the levels of those hormones we mentioned at the beginning, FSH and LH, and if they see that there's an inadequacy or too much production of these hormones, they'll know something somewhere is not right. So the MRI is actually going to help in that way. What if the issue is with estrogen and progesterone levels? Then they're going to have to check your ovaries and see if there is, ovarian failure. And so that way they'll figure out a way to be able to help you. That's why it's important to see your doctor. If there's an issue related to your thyroid, they can be able to check your, they'll do some blood tests. They'll find out, your levels of the hormones that are related to your thyroid. That way they'll be able to figure out a solution for you, and you can find a solution to that problem once and for all. Some women end up having tumors also on their thyroid. They're not necessarily cancerous, but they are tumors, so they might lead to an overproduction of hormones or under production of certain hormones that are essential when it comes to you getting your monthly period. They'll also carry out some certain physical exams to check, and also they'll be able to conduct some tests to actually check whether your cervix is okay, the hymen, or they'll carry out to see whether everything in terms of your reproductive system is okay. So it's very important for you to actually go and see your doctor. That way when they diagnose you with secondary amenorrhea, they know exactly what they've checked, and for you to find a solution, it will actually be a lot easier. So once you've been able to see the doctor and they've carried out these tests, you'll know what type of hormones are actually underproduced or overproduced, and you can be able to take the next step. So how exactly can you get your period back when it comes to secondary amenorrhea? Well, hormonal imbalance is a major factor when it comes to secondary amenorrhea. This is because the hormones that are released in order for you to have your period, they all need to be released in certain amounts, the right amounts. And when they aren't, you end up having these particular issues. For instance, if you have an overproduction of estrogen, you might end up having an overgrowth of the endometrial lining, and this might lead to certain issues. Or if you end up having an underproduction of estrogen, that means you won't have the growth of that endometrial lining that's supposed to shed during menstruation. So you end up having issues. So this is very important for you in order for you to understand why you're not having your period and how you can be able to balance your hormones. And when it comes to hormonal balance, here at WellnessKE, we always advocate for the natural ways because they are currently helping so many women, and we love it when women actually share how the natural products that we have are currently helping them. So there are certain lifestyle changes that you can make when it comes to your day-to-day life in order for you to get your period back. For instance, it's important for you to start, taking care of your physical, your body basically. So when it comes to getting enough sleep, sleep is going to help you in balancing your hormones the right way. Also, resting enough, meaning you're not just taking yourself back to back when it comes to work and everything else that's going on. You're taking enough time to rest so that your body can recuperate and it can function properly, because your physical works together with your internal organs. That way they can be able to produce the right amount of hormones and you can be able to have your period. And speaking of rest, stress is another one. You have to de-stress and find a way that you can actually manage your stress. If you find that you have issues like anxiety, or you're always stressed when it comes to your relationship, work, and everything else, parenting, you have to find ways to de-stress, be it meditation, be it yoga, be it linking up with your friends or family, or having meaningful relationships, or doing things that you're passionate about, or being in nature. Stress is one of the biggest factors that are actually disrupting women's hormones, and we have to focus on it because it's causing much damage, and it's actually leading to more issues when it comes to women's reproductive health. And speaking of which, we actually have a video, and we're going to link it right here, that we posted last week with regards to hormones and how they're leading to weight gain in women, and stress was one of the factors. So I hope you get to watch that video and learn a little bit more. Something else is your diet and nutrition. When it comes to diet and nutrition, foods that are rich in vitamin C are meant to help. Now, this is not scientifically proven, but I know a few people who have done it and it has helped them. So when it comes to foods rich in vitamin C, make sure that you take some fresh fruit rich in vitamin C. You can add lemon into your water. You can actually through, of course, talking to a professional, add some vitamin C supplements that are going to help you. Also some spinach, peppers, whether it's green pepper, red pepper, these are going to help you. So add some salads, add some fruit, and this is going to help you. And basically your diet and nutrition should be healthy enough to support hormone function and production, producing hormones in the right amounts, basically, right? So this is going to help you in a very, very big way. Physical activity or fitness. For instance, yoga is a big one. There are certain yoga asanas or postures that are going to help you when it comes to you getting your menstrual period. So, start by going onto YouTube and finding out these videos that are going to help you, and just practice from home, and don't give yourself too much pressure. Take some time, sit by yourself, take a nice bath, and just feel good, and try these yoga practices and asanas, and they could actually help you when it comes to you getting your period back. So when it comes to the products that we offer here at WellnessKE, they're very effective when it comes to hormonal balance, which is key when it comes to you getting back your period. So we have organic green tea that's doing amazing when it comes to balancing hormones. Turmeric tea, and turmeric is one of the most effective spices that's currently being used to help women get their period back. So if you can team up green tea and turmeric tea, then it's going to do amazing things for you. We also have organic moringa, and you can turn it into a smoothie, a healthy smoothie that will be a healthier breakfast for you or a healthier dinner for you. That's going to help you big time. We also have organic seeds like flax seeds, and we have chia seeds and sesame seeds and sunflower seeds, and all these are going to help you when it comes to hormonal balance. This is because these seeds are rich in omega-3 fatty acids, and omega-3 fatty acids are vital if you really want to balance your hormones naturally. Hormones play a very big role when it comes to your menstruation. Don't forget that. Now, most people always think about going big when it comes to finding a solution or swallowing a certain pill and then your period just starts. Please, what you need to do is to look at yourself and your daily activities, make these changes, and before you know it, you'll actually have found a solution when it comes to menstruation. If you found this video helpful, please make sure that you let me know in the comment section. Thank you so much for always watching our videos and sending in your questions and telling us what you'd like to learn about. My name is Fatma. I'll see you guys in the next one. Before I go, I want to remind you to hit that like button if you found the video helpful, and also don't forget to hit the subscribe button. That way you'll get to know every single time we post a new video. Okay, I'm done now. Bye.